Jessie here. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. Today's video is going to be the budget results for the final paycheck in the month of September. I took care of the last couple of bills in September and the first couple of bills in October with this paycheck. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and get started. I have in front of me my budget by paycheck workbook, as well as my deluxe monthly planner from Erin Condren. The budget by paycheck workbook is by the Budget Mom. I have the pens that I'm going to need, black ink for if I am under budget, red ink for if I am over budget. I use the Parkoo erasable pens because I make mistakes. I like to be able to erase them. I also have my phone here to use as a calculator. So I'm just going to go ahead and flip to this week in my budget by paycheck workbook. If you are unfamiliar with my channel, I have the budget by paycheck workbook in the printable version. I have just printed the pages that I need. I have my cover here laminated. I just printed the page and laminated the cover. And I have punched it and bound it with a Happy Planner disc system, which I really like. So we're going to go towards the back here. We are looking at the 5th paycheck in September, the paycheck my husband received on September 29th. We're going to zoom in just a touch, and we're going to start out with bills. So the way that I do my budgets is I write out my budget plan for the week here on a paycheck bill tracker from the Budget Mom. I keep track of my expenses throughout the week in the calendar portion of my deluxe monthly planner from Erin Condren. And then at the end of the week, when all of my spending has happened, before I write up my budget for the following week, I go in and I figure out exactly how much I spent. Did I stick to my budget? Am I over budget? And that helps inform my budget for the following week. So to keep track of my transactions, I do have a little color coding system that I try to follow. I have it here on one of these Erin Condren compliment cards, and each of my transactions falls under a category, and I use a different color for each category. So as we go in and look at my budget, we'll be able to make use of this color coding system. Also, because it was the final paycheck in the month of September, I did take care of some bills that fell on the last couple of days of September here, and also I took care of bills and transactions that happened in October. So in order to stop myself from having to flip back and forth a ton, I just went ahead and wrote out the bills that I paid and their amounts here on this little sticky note. That way we can just stay right here in October, and I've got all of my transactions on one page. Alright, so let's go ahead and start looking at these numbers. So under this bills category is everything that gets paid through my bank, whether it be a bill that I send an automatic payment to, or I use my debit card for, anything that I use a credit card for and then pay that credit card with my bank account. So it's not just bills, it's also expenses and things that we don't use cash for. Starting with groceries, I budgeted $150 for groceries. If we look here on my little color coding key, groceries are in this pink color. So we are looking for any transactions here in pink. And we have just one for $156.78. So that is over budget since I budgeted $150, and so for that I just write it in red ink so that I can look at a glance and see, okay, I was over budget for grocery. So we'll go ahead and write that in. And going $6.78 over budget is not something that I beat myself up for. I just write it in red so that it's really easy to go back and compare. So if I look back at previous weeks and I see that grocery has been over budget for multiple weeks in a row or for a long period of time, then I might need to take a look at that budget and up it in the future. Now I can see here looking at it that last week I was over budget in groceries as well, but that overall for my bills I was under budget. And this is just how I make it real easy to look at a glance. So this week I was under budget in groceries. The previous week I was under budget as well. So I don't think that adjusting my grocery budget is something that I need to do. I'm not over budget on a consistent basis. It's just something that happens here and there, and it's just for a point of reference. I never ever beat myself up for going a little bit over budget. Alright, next up we have household. And for my household expenses, I budgeted $25. Looking at my key here, household is in this bright green color. So again, we look at the transactions and we see that there's just one household transaction for $16.07. That's under budget, so I can write that in black. Next up, I have my couple of bills, and those I went ahead and wrote on this little sticky note. So for Discover, that's a minimum payment on my Discover card. I budgeted $100. I did make that payment. It came in due at $92, so under budget there. Lowe's, I budgeted $100. That bill came in at $94, so I'm under budget there as well. So that took care of those last couple of bills in September, so I can get rid of this little sticky note. Moving on, for bills, we have lot rent. Bills, by the way, are in this brighter blue color. Lot rent is one of my bills. I budgeted $510. If we look here, we can see that that's exactly what that bill came to. Water, I budgeted $50, and that bill came in at $40.32. Hopefully you guys can see. And lastly, we had my cable bill, which was $65, and that came in at $62.44. So, even though I was over budget in this grocery category, I was under in quite a few of these other categories, which means that for my bills, I'm going to be under budget overall. So I'm going to use my calculator here. We're just going to add these totals up. So we have $156.78 plus $16.07 plus $92 plus $94 plus $510 plus $40.32 plus $62.44, and that equals $971.61, which means that I was under budget. 1,000 minus 971.61 by $28.39, which is awesome. So because I was under budget by so much, I'm going to have extra money to do a little something with, which we will talk about after I take care of the next category, which is cash envelopes. So while everything under bills was taken care of with my checking account, everything under this envelopes category is taken care of in cash. Whenever I sit down, I write out my budget, I figure out how much cash that I need, I go to the bank, and I pull out those denominations, and then I have cash to spend for the week. So I have my cash envelope wallet from Conscious Wallet. It has all of my various envelopes in it, and I just separate the cash and put them in each of the envelopes so that I can do my spending throughout the week. So I have my envelopes here to reference, and let's just get started. So the first category here is Eric, that's my husband. I always give him $40 for spending money. I don't ever expect him to give anything back. He spends it or he saves it or whatever he chooses to do with it. But that is always as budgeted. Next up, I have my personal spending, For this week, I budgeted $40, but I also left myself a little note here that says that I rolled over $20 from the previous week. So when I am doing my math here, I'm going to start with $60 because that's what I had total. Now, I don't keep track of my husband's spending. I don't have any clue what he does with his money, but I do keep track of mine. And if we look on my little key here, my spending is in this dark purple, which is my favorite color. So if we look here, you can see I have a couple of transactions from my personal spending. So we're just going to pull in my calculator and add them up. So I have 6 and 20, which I guess I didn't really need my calculator for after all, which means I spent $26. I started with $60, so I should have $34 left in my personal spending envelope, which we're going to find out. So I just go here in my personal envelope, 20, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34. And that's how I know that I tracked everything, everything's accurate, and that's great. So what am I going to do with this extra money? I'm going to do just what I did last week. I'm going to roll it over and continue to hold on to my personal money for a while there. If I had personal money left, I was putting it towards debt or a sinking fund, but it's my money. I should be able to keep it. So that's going to go right back into my personal envelope for another week. All right, so even though I didn't spend it all, I have allocated all of that money, so we're just going to go ahead and say that that $40 is out of my budget for the week. Plus the 20 from last week, but I don't need to account for that here in this week's budget. All right, next up we have gas, and I budgeted $40 for gas. Gas is in this light purple color, and I did have just one transaction this week where I spent $27. So I budgeted 40 minus 27 should mean that I have $13 left in my wallet. So we'll just flip to gas, pop this open here, 10, 11, 12, 13. So what do I do with this money? This money goes into a sinking fund for gas. I budget my $40 every single week. If I don't spend it all, I take whatever's left and put it into an envelope in my sinking funds. That way, if there comes a week when I need a little bit more gas money than what I've budgeted, I have it. Gas is something that is a necessity, not necessarily a want, so I don't want to ever be short. So I always like to have a little backup. So I keep my sinking funds in this accordion folder. You've probably seen this if you watch my videos regularly. Each of my sinking funds has its own little tab here in this folder. So I just go and I find the gasoline tab and I pull out that fund. So from previous weeks, I've managed to save $123 of extra gas money, and we're going to add 13 more today. So today is October 6th. We're adding $13. 123 plus 13 is 136. So I'm just going to add this cash in here, and then we're going to count it and make sure that I have that 136. Anytime that I take money out or add money to a sinking fund, I count it to make sure that I have an accurate amount. 20, 40, 60, 80, 90, 100, 10, 20, 25, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36. And the reason why I keep this gas money is, like I said, gas is a need. So if we need to go somewhere, we need to get my kids to the school, or we need to go pick up groceries, we're not going to just say, oh, we're out of gas money, so we're not going to go anywhere. That's not practical. So whereas if I'm out of eating out money, or I'm out of spending money, that's something I can say, okay, I'm done spending in that category. Gas isn't really one of those things, so I always want to make sure that I'm budgeting enough for gas. This extra fund is just like security. It keeps me in gas money. During the winter time especially, we don't drive a lot, so I continue to budget that same $40 in gas, but we just bank a lot of it. And then come summertime, when we are driving a ton, we have the means to be able to do that. Hopefully that makes sense. I got some questions as to why I do it that way. That's why. So that's going to go back behind this little tab here in my sinking funds. And we are going to move on. So I did use that full $40 from my gas fund from this week. Next up, we have eating out. Eating out is $30 that I have budgeted. If we're looking here, again, my key says eating out is in this yellow color. So we're looking for yellow transactions, and there was just one this week. We did really good with eating out, and that was $20. So we are under budget there. That should mean that we have $10 left for eating out money. Eating out envelope is this one with the tacos and the burgers, which is so cute. I have the Conscious Wallet linked down below. It comes with the wallet and all of these great envelopes, and it's a really affordable wallet from Amazon. I do indeed have $10 left from this fund, and I'm just going to stick this off to the side. We'll talk about what we're going to do with this extra money in a little bit. Lastly, we have miscellaneous. I budgeted $50 for miscellaneous. Miscellaneous is in this bright green. And I had just one miscellaneous transaction this week, which is not in here. What did I do? I have my little color coding stickers here. I know I wrote it out. Did I just forget to stick it in? Yep, I did. There it is. Miscellaneous. So let's just go ahead and stick that in here. And this transaction happened on Sunday night. There we go, problem solved. So for miscellaneous, I spent $22 this week. I budgeted $50. 50 minus 22 is 28, so that is what I should have left in my envelope here. $25, $6, $7, $8. So that's going to go off to the side with this other 10. We'll talk about that here in just a minute. So that is all of my cash envelopes. You saw some of this money got spent throughout the week. Some of it was put into savings. Let's see how far under budget we were. We budgeted $200 for envelopes. 40 plus 40 plus 40 plus 20 plus 22 is 162. 200 minus 162 means we had $38 left over, which should be here. 20, 30, 35, 36, 37, 38. All right. So what am I going to do with this extra $38? Sometimes I will take this money and put it into a sinking fund that I have that's a little bit low and I want to bulk up. Other times I will take this money and pay it towards a debt. We're not doing any of that this week. We're actually just going to stick this money back into the bank to go into my buffer. I have a buffer in my account. There's like a few $100s in there that just sits there and absorbs any overages or takes care of anything that's sort of in limbo with my account. For example, whenever I fill my cash envelopes, I always have the plan to use cash for these various things, but sometimes that's just not feasible, so I want to eat out, but the restaurant that I'm at does not accept cash. So what I will do is I'll take that cash out of this envelope and I'll stick it in my to bank envelope to deposit to cover that amount, but I'll use my debit card. So my buffer is there to absorb that until I can get this money in the bank. You know what I mean? Or if a bill comes in a little bit higher than I expect. I don't keep a zero-based budget in that I'm have $300 in my bank and I'm spending $300. I like to have a buffer. So this money is going to go in and soup up my buffer a little bit. So I'm just actually going to stick this cash into my to bank envelope. And there's some other cash in there as well from the week, throughout the week. So this money will go into the bank for another day. And this extra money up here, this $28.39 that I had left over in my bills category, is going to go over here and become an extra debt payment. So I'm just going to stick that in as the actual amount. I didn't budget anything for extra debt, as you can see here. But this $28 is going to go to an extra debt payment. So $28.39. But before we get too far into there, let's just go ahead and finish up the actual amounts for my sinking funds. It's real easy because I always budget that amount and then immediately put it into an envelope. Alright, you guys, I'm sorry about that. I had to switch cameras because my battery died and my battery charger has quit working. I'm waiting on a new one to come in. So if this quality is terrible, I apologize. I'm going to try to get through the rest of this really quickly. So as I was saying, my sinking funds are always as budgeted. So I did indeed put $125 into campground. I did indeed put $25 into Christmas. Down here for extra debt. So the plan was to put $150 towards the lowest card in my list for my debt snowball. I did do that. As soon as I am done filming this video, I'm going to take that $28.39 and pay that also to the lowest card, which is a State Farm Visa card. We are almost done paying that off. So exciting. So by the end of today, I will have paid $178.39 towards extra debt this week, which is awesome. And we didn't have any extra savings. So that is it for my budget results for the 5th paycheck in the month of September. Did really, really well. Just a little bit of red ink. It's always my goal not to have to use red ink at all, but you know, budgets aren't perfect. I'm certainly not perfect. You're bound to go over a little bit every once in a while. Definitely not beating myself up for it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Make sure that you subscribe so that you never miss a video. I will be back later this week with my first budget for the month of October. You definitely are not going to want to miss that. So I will see you then. Bye, guys.